Welcome to this meeting of Recovery Dharma. We are gathered to explore a Buddhist-inspired approach to recovery for anyone who has been affected by addiction of any kind. We are peer-led and do not follow any one leader or teacher. My name is Greg, and I'm the facilitator of this meeting. As people who have struggled with addiction, we are already intimately familiar with the truth of suffering. Even if we never heard of the Buddha, at some level we already know the foundation of his teachings, which we call the Dharma, that in this life there is suffering. The Buddha also taught the way to free ourselves from this suffering.
When I discovered punk rock and hardcore, it focused the anger that was in me enough so that I could direct it in directions that actually had a positive influence on my life. You know, some difficult things happened to me as a child. I was abused between the ages of 4 and 8, dozens of times, maybe even hundreds.
Oh, here I am, looking punk rock, okay.
It's difficult for me to recall memories of my own childhood without bumping into memories of the abuse. And that's what's made parenting very hard for me.
We're actually in that house right now.
You know, many times when I was younger, the abuse would begin while I was in my sleep. And so I've always had a very difficult relationship with sleep. The nighttime, it would take me forever to fall asleep as a child, and that's been the case right up until this very day. In a nutshell, what caused the substance abuse problem? I got addicted to benzodiazepine, sleeping pills, and anti-anxiety pills. As soon as I was exposed to Back to the Future, I immediately started having daydreams and fantasies about time travel and how I would use that ability to correct my own past. And eventually I would develop these elaborate fantasies about saving and rescuing other people. On some level, I don't think it's like morally permissible or ethically permissible to have a job and derive a living that is not in some way rooted in alleviating human suffering. And that's another facet to why I love libraries so much, because it is just such a great platform to be of service to individuals who are struggling and suffering, but also groups in the community who are struggling and suffering.
I don't know. I used to hate that I lived in the town that I grew up in, but now that I have kids, I don't mind. I don't know why that is.
And so having children has really kind of cast all of the abuse, I think, in a new light, a more accurate light. You know, and I think every parent has this experience where you watch a human being develop and you kind of get the sense that we build up these resentments. Some people build up prejudices, other people build up a negative outlook on life, and that's not our natural state. Our natural state seems to be one that is of wonder and optimism and acceptance. And I have experienced that through both of my kids. And it was hard because I recognized that, I perceived that I was in a prison that whole time. And I was resigned to thinking that's where I was stuck. And then at some point I had kids, and I realized if I had just told my parents, they would have intervened to help me, and it would have ended, and they would have gotten me therapy, and I would have been in a much healthier, happier place, at an early age. And so the reality was I was in a prison the whole time, but I didn't try opening the door until I was 35. And when I did, for the first time, I realized the door had been unlocked the whole time, and I was free to leave whenever I wanted to. And so I have so much rage that I wasted so much time, and that relationships were damaged that can never be fixed. that I was just angry at people for things that were not their fault, that I was angry at myself for things that were not my doing. So I know that this is something that I'm going to be working through for the entirety of my life. I will be, an elderly man going to therapy appointments, probably going to recovery meetings. I will have freedom in my life. I will have happiness. I will have a sense of safety and security. I will have a sense of self that I am proud of, but I will never be free of the memory of the abuse.
Oh, buddy. Oh, I got you. I got you.
No, I'm gonna catch you.
Oh, you gotta catch me? Oh, jeez. Okay.
The way to make that manageable is to turn the negative experience into something that has value for myself and for others. And I think that speaks to my interest in being of service to others who are suffering. I'm just constantly pulling the weeds out, but I can never get at the root quite the way that I want to. And so now the work of my life is not to eradicate the weeds, but to find a way to enjoy being a gardener.